And I think that our conditioning through porn and through, portrayals of relationships in media has programmed us as men to be very actually externally needy. Welcome, I'm Jonathan White. I'm here to help you master your sexual energy so you can manifest your ideal life. If you want to learn more about sexual mastery, make sure you subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to stay notified when I release new videos and go live. Make sure you get my free ejaculation control course through the link in the video description below. In this video, I'm going to talk about conscious masturbation as a way to develop self-love and to rewire sexual impulses. And really the focus of what we're going to get into this video is changing a lot of the habits that are actually draining your energy, this externally focused dynamic of sexual arousal and orgasm versus an internal dynamic. And that will make more sense as we get through the video. So a lot of the work in sexual kung fu, in conscious sexuality, is really undoing a lot of the damage and the poor habits that we built through our initial imprints of pornography and early sexual experiences in our life. And the thing is that these early sexual experiences and exposures to sex and porn really shaped a lot of our sexual habits, how we experience sex, and especially how we experience orgasm. The way that our energy flows either out of us or internally within us during orgasm, and especially like obsessive kind of fantasy and this projection outward of our sexual energy, which is really depleting over time. So for everyone, there's often all this shame, self-judgment, guilt, and trauma over sexuality. I think it's almost unavoidable to be on this planet and not have some degree of wounding around sexuality because it's such a complicated thing for us. On one hand, it's very suppressed, religiously, politically, socially. But at the same time, we're bombarded with very exaggerated sexual stimulus through media, through social media, through television, through porn. And so it creates this deep split in our psyche of sex is wrong and dirty, but I really, really want it and desire it and secretly, and perverted about it. All these kind of things, right? And it creates this deep split within us. And so one of the most valuable tools of sexual kung fu, as far as the training of not just, learning to have non-ejaculatory orgasms, deeper, more intense orgasms, but just to have a more fulfilling sexual experience and have more energy in your day-to-day life, more creativity, drive, and fluidity in your life, is engaging in conscious self-cultivation, or we could say conscious masturbation, because this is one of the main tools you use to undo some of the damage that you've done to yourself, or that society, we could say, has done to you through poor sexual habits and porn addiction and all these things, and to start to build basically a new connection to your body. And basically the idea is that you want to almost start from 0 point, meaning that imagine you've never experienced sex or sexual pleasure before and just learning to rediscover this. And this is not an easy thing to do because we have so many habits. We're definitely creatures of habit, and we tend to do things exactly the same way every single time. Like next time you brush your teeth, notice you probably do it in a very certain way. Use the same hand. You start, upper right, go to the left, lower left to right, for example. It's been my habit. And we do this in all aspects of our life because our brain builds these certain neural pathways in how we do things to do things, the quickest and most efficiently. But with sex and orgasm, we don't necessarily want, the quickest and most efficient is why a lot of men are premature ejaculators. So it's really important, I think, in all aspects of your life to shift up how you're doing things, to mix it up, to not just do things at an unconscious level out of habit, but to really bring more awareness, more intention into every single thing that you're doing. And sex, or self-pleasure, is a very, very important thing to bring this into as well. And once I understood this, I saw how there was a parallel in different areas of my life. I noticed how my mind and body was during sex was often how it was during other things. For example, about 10 years ago when I was a full-time musician, I had some shoulder issues because I used to play guitar for hours and hours a day. I was learning a new approach of learning to play my instrument with better body awareness, proper alignment, using just the minimal amount of physical engagement, tension required to, play the notes, and also being aware of my breath. And I noticed how I could do it for about a minute, and then I would just go right back into being hunched over, shallow breathing, lots of physical tension. My face was tensed up. It was a difficult thing for me. And I started to realize during sex or during, self-pleasuring, it was a similar thing. I would start out relaxed, breathing deeply, but then within a minute or two, I was tensed up. I'd lost awareness of my breath. My mind was just completely focused on like fantasy and things like this. So you start to see how all these patterns we have are often related in all aspects of our life, and training in them in one area often carries over to the other areas as well, which is why sexual kung fu is so much about foundational training in breath work, qigong practices, yoga practices, mental exercises, and that all carries over into sex, which isn't always obvious from the beginning. And so this is where upgrading, we could say, your sexual experience, learn to be a multi-orgasmic man, learn to have full body orgasm states that last for a long time, and it's experiencing unending bliss and pleasure and connection to yourself and your partner through sex requires this type of training of really being aware of how you're holding your mind and your body and what habits you have. But something very practical I want to share with you, it's kind of the bigger picture, but narrowing it down here to a practical takeaway is practicing self-stimulation with a very certain focal point, right? Now there's several focal points. I talk a lot about, breathing deeply, relaxing the body and mind. At this point, it kind of goes without saying that you're incorporating that, or if you're not familiar with that, check out my premature ejaculation playlist and my sexual kung fu exercise playlist for the very, very basics of learning to last longer and experience more pleasure during sex. But another very, very important level is bringing your attention within yourself, bringing your focal point within yourself. What do I mean by this? Most men are scattering their sexual energy outwards, as I mentioned before, just completely. Obviously, sex is a big way that we do this, trying to hunt after a sexual partner just so we can plow into them and release our energy and then just kind of, okay, what's next? The very animalistic way of going about sex. Not that there's anything wrong with it if that's, what you choose to experience it as, but it has its limitations and it becomes exhausting and kind of, you hit a dead end after a while with that. It becomes a fleeting experience you can never really get enough of. But just this constant kind of lusting and fantasizing and just always sending energy to the women around you, wherever you are, whether it's just your mind or actually, people you're around, it can be equally exhausting to your energy. This is a more subtle level than just, jerking off to porn every day, but it's still something to be aware of. I was the type of person that was always thinking about women. When I was around women, I was just sending all this energy to them, just fantasizing and just oh, I'd really like to be with her, all these, just completely just projecting my energy outside of myself. And I remember one day, as I was getting further along in my training, I had spent hours doing qigong and meditation. It was just super centered. My Dantian was cooking. I was just really in my body, very, very much in my center and just within my field, feeling really, really good, just being within myself. And I remember I was just I was going for a walk and I saw this really attractive woman, and it was kind of that old, I felt my energy kind of focusing on her, and I noticed how much it pulled my energy out of myself. It changed my state from one of complete equilibrium and really kind of a blissful state to a state of almost this urgent striving of to this external thing. And I only noticed that because, I'd reached a certain point of sensitivity in my training, but it was a very, very interesting experience. And it really showed me how much energy men spend fantasizing, lusting after the women around them and things like that. And I think that our conditioning through porn and through, portrayals of relationships in media has programmed us as men to be very actually externally needy in some way, as far as always just having this external projection onto others. And so the exercise that I present you with is notice how you, first of all, throughout your daily life, notice how you're tending to do this, to just be projecting your energy out of desire and neediness onto others. And I know neediness can be kind of a sticky word, and it's often a very subtle thing, not necessarily neediness I want this woman to be my mother and to take care of all my needs and things like that. But it can be as simple as, I really want to have sex with this woman. I need to feel that fulfillment of having sex with her. That's a type of neediness within itself, right? And it's a bit more subtle, but it's something to pay attention to, I would say. So the practical exercise that I present to you in this video to work with is I want you to practice self-stimulation, conscious masturbation, self-love, and your focal point is going to be, what you're going to do is place one hand on your heart and think of, as you're pleasuring yourself, think of you're sending the energy, drawing that into your heart. You could use fantasy in some sense, but use an image inside of your heart. It's imagine that sexual scene or whatever is happening inside of you. We could throw in some Taoist internal alchemy and say that it's this sexual union between the kidneys and the heart, the water and fire elements. So you could imagine this sexual scene, but feel that it's happening within yourself, within your heart center. You're directing that desire and arousal into yourself, into your heart, lovingly. You're giving it to yourself. What are most men doing? They're fantasizing and they're sending it externally. Where is that energy going? That's a whole question within itself. I could get into some of the weird astral creatures and the weird programs a lot of men get sexually bonded into that are literally feeding off of them like parasites and driving them to masturbate impulsively day after day. That's a whole nother topic. But basically, when you start to do this, you're reprogramming your energy to remain within yourself. You're having a more internal experience of orgasm and sex, which is really what is very conducive to becoming a multi-orgasmic man and having powerful non-ejaculatory orgasms. But I think most importantly, having a more centered and heart-centered experience of sex and pleasure, which is really what makes it fulfilling. Because I would get this question from a lot of men, they're training in sexual kung fu and they would say, I'm having these amazing sexual experiences with my partner, but when I'm practicing self-stimulation, it's just very lustful and horny and I just want to ejaculate. And I think the main reason is because when you're having sex with a partner, someone who you're deeply connected with, it's easy to get in this state of love, connection. You feel a certain, obviously you feel some kind of connection to them if you're having sex with them, hopefully, some sort of resonance. And that opens you up naturally into this deep orgasmic state. But the thing is, a lot of people lack self-love. They lack the ability to truly, intimately, deeply connect with themselves. And that's a whole profound thing, and right there, what I've just said is a whole profound journey of healing to embark on. So what do? Instead, they fantasize and just, create a completely lust-driven, base energy center, we could say, level experience of sex that they're connecting to and they're masturbating. And when you're only engaging at that level of lust, it pretty much can only result in an ejaculatory type of experience. And again, not like that's wrong. That's part of the sexual spectrum and it's enjoyable to some extent, but it's very limited. And it's not going to be that when there's love, when there's connection, even if it's just to yourself, it creates this lightness of the energy to where it penetrates into the higher energy centers. That's what brings you into the full body orgasm state on your own or with a partner. So that's my exercise for you. Place your hand on your heart as you're pleasuring yourself. Focus on bringing the energy up into your heart center, using a sexual imagery, bring it up there. And honestly, even if you're not on the non-ejaculatory sexual path yet, if you're still, having ejaculations every day or every now and then, whatever, even if it's an ejaculatory orgasm, at least directing that energy into your heart will still create more of this internal experience. That's what I really want to put out there with this video, is bringing that awareness, bringing that energy within yourself, focusing on self-love versus this excessive sending all of my energy out here just to be dispersed and gone forever. Thank you for watching this video. I really hope that it's given you a new perspective and something to really put into practice and embody, because that's what this work is all about. We can talk about things all day, but if you're not acting on it, if you don't have some sort of practice to experience it, it's just talk. If you're interested in going deeper into the work of sexual kung fu, learning to have non-ejaculatory orgasms, overcome premature ejaculation, have more creative energy in your life, check out my training courses. I'll put more information in the description of this video. Please subscribe to my channel, give this video a like, and if you feel like there's someone who needs to hear this, share this video with them. Let me know in the comments below what was your biggest takeaway from this video. I'd love to hear. Have a great day, my friends.